How can I minimize the... Hello, everyone. Welcome to our event today. So our topic is Beginner's Guide to User Research. I hope you guys will all gain insightful information both for academic area and industry area. So firstly, David should introduce himself and THNK.innovation.
Thank you, Mengru. Yes, just quick introduction because this is not about me today. But I launched THNK.innovation about 3 years ago when I resigned from my job as an industrial engineer and designer. I worked in the machine tool industry, designing machines, high precision grinding machines for automotive, aerospace, and smart devices industries. I got a little bit bored of that, especially how innovation was handled in the corporate world. So 3 years ago, I decided to resign and focus on bringing innovative thinking tools and design thinking methodology into the startup world and help especially people that do have dreams and passions to make them happen and get them to make them alive in a more efficient way. So that's what we're doing today. And as it happens, we also inherited Silicon Beach. So that's why you're not just here via THNK Club. Most of you might actually have signed up via Silicon Beach. And we're excited to have all of you on board. We move on. The THNK Club is just our Asia Pacific wide community for creatives and different thinkers. And we integrate that these days with Silicon Beach to create a more holistic approach how we do innovation in this corner of the world. Back to Mengru.
Okay, so I would just introduce the interface of Zoom chat today. Firstly, you can switch on or off your camera, and you can introduce yourself, leave comments and questions in the chat or so. Please mute yourself when you are not speaking. And I would have a quick introduction of myself. So my previous background was product design. So my bachelor was industrial design in China. And after that, I gained various design experiences in different design area. And because my master was design innovation and technology, I also gained multiple skill sets from that. So after that, I decided to transfer my focus into user research and product design. And so in THNK.innovation, we use design thinking to iterate our innovative idea. But for today, user research should be engaged in every stage of the whole design thinking process. And it is quite effective if you choose right method in right stage and find the right research question to help your business idea. So our agenda today includes why do we need user research, what data do we collect, and some useful methods for starters. Ooh. So the first question is, why do we need user research? User research helps you to inspire your design, to evaluate your solution, and to measure your impact, especially in complex problem solving. As I mentioned before, so my background include both for physical product and digital product. So I believe that in the future, our service system is more like a combination of different channels like physical products and digital products, and also it might engage a space, and then that should be a complex problem solving. So that's why we need user research to cope with those questions. And as per Tim Brown from IDEO, he said that empathy is at the heart of design. Without the understanding of what others see, feel, and experience, design is a pointless task. So here is a reference from another excellent mentor from our previous events. So this model comes from an event named, which is about MVP. So we can see that if we want to make our product service perfect, we need high market value and technical expertise. But if we are great at technical expertise and we dive into it, but we never do our research about how and what the target group want in the market, we might miss our audience. And so you know that you already pay a lot of effort to develop those products, but no target group care that. That's not what we want. So we really need to figure out how the users want and what the users want, so that we can minimize our time waste. And so here is a interactive part. Is any insightful information you've got from my previous referencing and some ideas here? You can unmute yourself and share your ideas. Okay, no. So I will go to the next page.
So, Mengru, when you say without empathy, design thinking is a wasted task. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Why do we need empathy?
Yeah, because sometimes if you tell the people choose that why you need this, why you need that, they will feel they will in a defense circumstance, because they think you are more like a sales. You want to sell something to those people, but if you understand how they think and how they like, they would love your product even though you didn't tell them, or they might share your product and service by themselves. You don't need to push them, because no one likes to be pushed.
That's right. I don't like to be pushed at all. Thanks for that. Back to you.
Okay. So in conclusion, user research provides evidence for us to identify and prove or disprove our assumptions, find commonalities across our target audience members, and recognize their needs, goals, and mental models. So I would say that sometimes we love our concept, but we need to think critical. So this proof our assumption is also an important part, so that because in that case we can iterate our ideas. And also what I mentioned just now is mental models is also important more than the facts. And so what data do we collect? Normally we collect quantitative data and qualitative data. The quantitative data is any research that can be measured numerically. So it's valuable in understanding statistical likelihoods and what is happening in specific context. Compared with that, qualitative data, sometimes also called soft research, it helps us understand why people do the things they do, and often takes the form of interviews or conversations. Normally, we can collect both kind of data in one method. It depends on what question we ask and what we want to know. So here's the most important part for today. Useful methods for starters. And I would introduce 5 methods here, which helped me a lot when I was a fresh guy in this area. So the first one is surveys and questionnaires. That is an easy way to gather a large amount of information about a group while spending minimal time, because you post that in social media and you can gain a lot of responses. We normally choose this method for projects that have a large and diverse group of users, or a group that is concerned with anonymity. So it's normally be used at early stage of a project. And we might need tools like Google Forms, Wufoo, or just send a link via email. And there are a lot of different tools in the marketplace. You just choose one you like it best. So for me, I like Google Forms best because it can automatically draw some diagram for us. And I save the time that I have to redraw the diagram in Illustrator. And there are also these advantages. Firstly, the researcher can't interact directly with the respondents. And secondly, researchers typically have a limited ability for follow-up with more details. And thirdly, some data could be invalid if the researchers push participants too much for response quantity. It's, for example, so when I was a student, you know that we are all try our best for our assignment. So some people might want to gather as more data as they can, and they just send a link to everyone and ask them to fill in the form. But some people some people feel they are being pushed, and they just or choose A and give you the data, and they so that they can run it out of you. So that's not good, and the data could be invalid in that case. So I would say that quality is more important than quantity. Don't push people to submit those forms if they don't want. And the second one is interviews. Interviews is a tried and true method of one-to-one communication between a researcher and a user or stakeholder. So because during COVID, all of our interview could be online. So I would say that both online interview or face-to-face interview or helps you to reframe your business or product service process. But of course that you can gain more information from a face-to-face interview, because sometimes there are unconscious information like facial expression and body language also tell you the truth, that whether the users are really like it or they just want make you happy. And we normally choose interviews for projects that have a specific target group of users, and when we want to gain more detailed information deeply after basic ethnographic research. So normally the ethnographic research come from some the first step of the research, like we try our best to gather to gather some basic ethnographic data from questionnaires and surveys. So the tools here might be phone, internet, laptop, recorder, paper, pen, and the most important is question list. Sometimes if you are doing a usability testing session, you might also need a prototype. The disadvantages here is you really need to prepare the interview scope, the structure, and the question list before you start the interview, or it could be misled into time-wasting chat. And sometimes we might organize 5 interviews in one day. So you will have a limited time. So, and if you prepare it where you can make it effective and make the information most usable.
Hey, Mengru, can I ask a question here?
Yep.
Would you reckon that you can do an effective interview yourself, or do you need multiple people to actually get all the data? Can you take
Actually,
notes and do the interview yourself?
actually, there's if you really think the notes is very important, some people would organize a session like one people is asking question, another researcher is taking notes, but normally we all record it. So after the interviews, we might re-listen the recording and redo the notes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it depends as you like.
Not
So
that.
yeah, because if there is only one researcher take notes and ask the questions, he might lose some information in a limited time.
Yeah, I can see that. Thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome. And the third one is focus group. A focus group is a moderated discussion with a group of users, allowing insight into user attitudes, ideas, and desires. So we normally choose it when we want to confirm our analysis with a wide variety of users' profile. And also when we want to explore how target users exchange viewpoints and discuss disagreements with each other. So sometimes if you design a product service for specific people, you might get some surprising attraction that some people who are not in your target group also using your product and they love it. So the focus group is more like when your product service have a different target group and they are all using your product service just in different way, and they use different function. They will have a quite different attitude to your product service. So the most valuable part for here is their argument with each other and how they discuss the disagreement and exchange the viewpoints. The tools are similar as previous one. We might need phone, internet, laptop, video recorder, paper, pen, and the most important, we will have a moderator. So the moderator will need to prepare the question list first. And sometimes if it's also in a usability test, we need prototype. And for this one, because there's so many different people engaged in, researchers usually select participants based on specific traits or characteristics like age, occupation, experience, education, ethnicity. And because some of my friends who are still in some Chinese user research group, and every day I can see they are posting the recruitment advertisements in my WeChat moments. So this is more like a recruitment process. The moderator and the researcher really need to pay an effort to ensure that people are right people, and they can give you they are those kind of group can give you most valuable information. And also it could be challenging in a business to business context because the moderator should stimulate busy professionals speak and interact in limited time. Questions?
Yes, we have Gareth posting some questions on the chat. Gareth, are you able to unmute yourself and ask it, or shall I read it out? I guess I shall read it out then. He's saying that focus group is his favorite, but he mentions that it's still possible, even with a focus group, and they have different people on there, that to miss particular point of views. And is there a better way to choose the right people for focus groups? What's the best way to get a good composition of people in the focus group?
Normally, we will submit the criteria of the recruiting advertisement, and in agency, we will tell our clients how the budget to recruit those people. So sometimes we might give them gift cards, and or we just give them money, and we might gather more people who are applying to participate in the focus group because they can gain money, and they will submit some basic information in something like a Google form, and then we gather those data. We just choose the specific amount of people we feel it's really fits our focus group requirement. Did I answer your question?
Gareth says sure. So yes, I would say you did. So what you're basically saying is you have to at some point you have to make you have to make a cutoff and say, okay, those are the people we want to have in the group to get the information. But there might be at the very end the niche markets that we don't cover in the first go. Is that about right? So
yeah, it's a balance.
cool.
So you need to limit some basic criteria you really want, and you might set some buffer zone so that some people might not exactly fit your target group, but in some other criteria you didn't limit that, and they could be your surprising participants.
Yes. And Gareth says same. It can be difficult. Yes. Look, Gareth, at some point you have to make a cutoff and you have to work with the data that you can gather at that point of time. And then with the next iteration of the design thinking process, when you learned more that there are latecomers and people that you did lose or did not consider in your first research or in your first testing, then you just incorporate them in your second one and you improve your product from there.
Yeah. So we will introduce design sprint later.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the fourth one is observation. So like the name, it's watching and listening carefully to target users as they work with a product and encounter a service in related context. And in terms of time, I would say we need to always keep mindful and always keep empathetic, because you never know when and where the inspirations will appear in your daily life. And because I'm already became a weird guy that when I am watching the TV shows with my friends, I still keep analyzing how the producer arrange different camera lists and how the actors appears and how they go to another side. That's quite complex, and that's always in my mind, and my friends always ask me, are you tired? But I get used of it and I enjoy it a lot now. Life is wonderful. And the tools include phone, video recorder, paper, pen, and sometimes you might also need prototype. Just if you see anything interesting, you just take a notes, take a photos, or take a video. That will all help. So the OCD will hate me now because I cannot come up with any disadvantage. And so I would just introduce some different type of the observation. The naturalistic observation is to observe people or subjects in their natural setting. So compared with that, controlled observation is researcher creates a specific context and lets the participants enjoy the products or service in that controlled setting. Shadowing is like you are a shadow. You follow the target users or target group and just see how they engage with your product or service, or how they how they finish their task in a specific walkthrough, never disturb them. Design documentary is like, it's based on video shooting. So sometimes you follow a user or you just observe them in a controlled setting. That's all work, but this based on that you have a long video shooting, and then you can analyze the data from the long video shooting, like how many times the people touch specific surface, and so that's whether that help you understand how do you design a product service to avoid COVID. That's the example. And the final one is diary study. Diary study is a form of user research where participants self-report their activities regularly in order to create data about their activities, attitudes, and expectation. Especially their attitudes and expectation could change in a long period. So we normally choose this method when we want a contextual understanding of user behaviors and experiences over time. Diary studies are useful for understanding long-term behaviors, such as habits, usage scenarios, attitudes and motivations, change in behaviors and perceptions, customer journeys. And the tools is diary template, but I'm so sorry that I cannot provide any one-page diary template here today, because normally the template will be customized to the client's requirements, for clients' requirements, because the different project needs different answer, or so we need to design different formats with maybe sometimes it's just 5 pages, or maybe sometimes it's more than 20 pages. That all depends on different project. So I cannot tell you any diary template reference here. And the disadvantage of this method is diary study could include various private information. Some people are really sensitive about that. So the private information could include photos, videos, and especially some mental activities. Hence, it would be the key challenge how researchers could build trust, so that the participants would love to spend such a long period of time to record all their detailed privacy. So that's why empathetic mind also works here. And here is an example from my previous project, which is a collaboration project between my bachelor university and Lenovo, that company for laptop. So we were engaging in this project to design for the university students about the laptop and peripheral devices for laptop. At the first research stage, we have 38 researcher members in total, and each of us need to get 5 responses from user diary. And after that, we have a internal focus group in our own team. Then each of us choose 2 typical users to have a further interviews. Then another internal focus group, we categorize those data into 6 persona. And after that, we separate our group, and my group was focused on artsy students. And we rebuilt the walkthrough of a daily routine based on the data we gathered from previous research. And that's the persona here. And there are a lot of different methods. If you're really interested in this, you can gain more inspirations for from your own research, and you can just have a screenshot here and to do your own research.
We're just about to launch, which is designed around the design thinking process. And it's called the Incubator. It's a pre-accelerator program for startup founders and small business founders. And we're using the design thinking methodology, where we go into user research before we start with product development and service development and building prototypes for user testing then. So if you have an idea and you do not know the market fit yet, please reach out. I will put the URL into the chat, and please reach out and let me know if you're interested, and I can hop onto a call with you and explain the program to you, but also we can just have a chat about your idea and see if I can help you on a fast track way with taking the next step in your journey. Yeah, Incubator, I'll just put the URL down there. We will share the link as well in the follow-up email to this event. So yes, would be awesome if you would let me know what you think about it, and if you think that URL is wrong, and if you think it's something for you, hit me up and let's have a chat. Cool. Thank you, Mengru, for giving me this opportunity.
Okay, thank you.